All right, so get this. You know how TikTok's like always making headlines?
Always.
Well, this time things are getting serious.
Mhm.
We're going to do a deep dive into a Supreme Court case that could actually, like, kick TikTok right off your phone.
Yeah, no kidding. It could like totally disappear.
Talk about high stakes, right?
It's crazy. And the impact goes way beyond just TikTok, though, right? We're talking about how the U.S. deals with foreign tech companies, especially ones from like China, with different ideas about data privacy and stuff.
Yeah, it's a huge deal for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so for anyone who like hasn't been glued to their phone every second, TikTok is this like global phenomenon. Over 150 million users just in the US hooked on those short, catchy videos.
Yeah, and it's so addictive. Like, that's part of what makes this whole thing so complicated. It's not just some silly app, it's like this whole cultural force. And at the center of it all is ByteDance, this Chinese company that owns TikTok. That's where things get really controversial.
And the US government's not playing around. They're saying ban TikTok unless ByteDance sells it off. Their main concern, national security. They're worried that the Chinese government could like force TikTok to hand over American user data or even use it to mess with what people see.
Right, that's the big fear. China has these laws that can make companies work with the government, even if it's about data from users outside of China. So the US is basically like, hey, if TikTok has to share our data, it's a massive security risk.
And it's not just them, right? This isn't some partisan fight or anything.
Yeah.
The Biden administration and a bunch of lawmakers from both sides are behind this ban.
Yeah, exactly. Democrats and Republicans are both worried. They see how big TikTok is and its influence, especially on young people, and they're worried about the possibility of manipulation, especially with all the tension between the US and China right now.
It's like we're in a tech Cold War or something.
Well, kinda. Yeah.
But to be fair, TikTok's fighting back hard. They're saying they've never shared data with the Chinese government and they never will.
And they're trying to calm everyone down by saying they'll store US user data right here in America, managed by Oracle. It's a big concession, but it's not clear if it'll be enough to change anyone's minds.
So it's this back and forth, right? The U.S. saying, we don't trust you, and TikTok saying, but we're trying to be trustworthy.
Exactly. And that takes us right to the core of this legal battle. Can the U.S. government force a company to sell itself just based on where it's from? That's what the Supreme Court's trying to decide. They're looking at a law that could basically force ByteDance to get rid of TikTok.
And time is ticking. A decision could come as early as January 19th. Talk about suspense.
Oh, yeah.
But this isn't just some abstract legal debate.
Yeah.
Think about all the people who use TikTok every day, all the creators and businesses that depend on it. What happens to them if the app just vanishes?
It's a really good point. The human cost of a potential ban is huge. You've got millions of creators, influencers, small businesses that rely on TikTok for their income, to reach their customers, to build communities.
It's how they make a living. And for regular users, it's a place to have fun, connect with friends, even get news sometimes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And then there's the whole free speech argument. TikTok saying that banning them violates the First Amendment rights of the company and its users. They're saying it's a platform for expression, just like any other social media, and the government shouldn't be able to shut it down just because they don't like who owns it.
Yeah, they're basically saying, hold on, this is America. We have freedom of speech here.
Exactly.
It's a tough issue, and the Supreme Court's decision is going to have ripple effects way beyond just TikTok. It could affect how the U.S. deals with content moderation, data security, and even the meaning of free speech online.
So let's imagine for a second that TikTok actually gets banned.
Yeah.
What are the options then? Where do people go?
Well, creators are already starting to put their stuff on other platforms like
Well-
Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, Snapchat, Spotlight. It's like they're getting ready just in case.
So there are alternatives, but are they really the same? I mean, can any of them really capture that TikTok magic, that algorithm, that whole vibe? I don't know.
It's the big question, right? TikTok's success isn't just about the features. It's about the community they've built, the trends they've started, the way it's become a part of online culture. That's hard to copy.
It's a cultural phenomenon for sure. And let's be real, there's a lot of money at stake. If TikTok disappears, it could cost creators, advertisers, the U.S. economy, billions of dollars.
Right.
We're talking a massive financial hit.
No, yeah, absolutely. Some analysts are predicting a ban could wipe out billions in revenue for American businesses and influencers. It would affect everything from marketing agencies to people making merchandise. It's a huge chunk of the creator economy.
So this is like a high-stakes game with huge consequences. It's about security, free speech, money culture.
Yeah, all of that.
And it all boils down to one question. Is the threat from TikTok's Chinese ownership serious enough to do something this drastic? Or is the U.S. overstepping its boundaries and maybe setting a dangerous precedent for internet censorship?
It's a tough call. There are strong arguments on both sides.
It really is.
Yeah, it really shows the tension between, like legitimate concerns about data security and foreign influence, and then the risk of going too far and hurting free speech. It's a tricky balance for sure.
It feels like we're in uncharted territory here. This
Yeah.
isn't just about one app anymore.
Ah.
It's about setting the rules for the entire digital world.
Exactly. And this case is especially interesting because it makes us really think about China's whole approach to the internet. They have a totally different system,
Hmm.
where the government has a lot of control over online content and data.
Right. And that clash of systems, that's what's making this whole TikTok thing so explosive. It's like two completely different philosophies going head to head.
And remember, concerns about TikTok and Chinese tech in general, this isn't new. This has been going on for years, even under the previous administration.
Oh, yeah, totally. Didn't Trump try to ban TikTok back in 2020? I remember that.
He did. Those efforts got stuck in the courts, but it shows this issue's been simmering for a while. And now, with Biden, it's back again, which shows that this isn't just a one-party thing. Both Democrats and Republicans are worried about it, which makes it even more important.
It seems like everyone agrees that Chinese tech is a potential threat, but there's no agreement on how to deal with it. Banning an app outright? That seems pretty extreme.
It is, and that's why this case is so crucial. It's forcing a national conversation about where we draw the line between national security and, businesses being able to operate, between protecting our data and keeping information open and accessible.
And we can't forget about the economic impact either. Banning TikTok wouldn't just hurt the company, it could have a ripple effect on the whole digital world.
Absolutely. We could be talking about disrupting a multi-billion-dollar industry that supports tons of creators, small businesses, marketing agencies. The impact on the U.S. economy could be huge.
It makes you wonder if we're willing to pay that price.
Mhm.
Is the risk from TikTok really big enough to justify those kinds of losses? It's a tough question.
It is, and it goes beyond just the immediate money situation, too. What kind of message does this send to other foreign tech companies working in the U.S.? What about companies like Tencent, Alibaba, Huawei? Could they be next?
It's like a domino effect, right? If TikTok goes down, who else gets caught in the crossfire? It raises serious questions about the future of globalization and information flowing freely between countries.
It does, and it's worth mentioning that some people think this whole TikTok thing is more about politics than real security concerns.
Mm.
They say the risks have been exaggerated, and this is just another way for the U.S. to try and limit China's power on the world stage.
So it's not as simple as China bad, TikTok bad, right? There's a lot more to it than that.
Exactly. And that's why we need to have these discussions to really dig deep and understand all the different sides of the issue. This isn't black and white. It's about figuring out a world where technology, politics, and global power are all mixed together.
It feels like we're at a turning point. This TikTok case, it's not just about one app. It's about how we're going to handle these kinds of challenges in the future.
It is. And it shows that we live in a world where these digital platforms have a ton of power, and that power comes with responsibility. Governments are trying to figure out how to regulate these platforms, how to protect users, and how to balance national security with individual freedom.
It's a huge puzzle with no easy answers.
Yeah, no kidding. And whatever the Supreme Court decides on TikTok, it's going to be a major piece of that puzzle. It's going to have consequences, not just for TikTok, but for the whole internet. It's going to shape how we think about data privacy, content moderation, and the role of governments online.
It's a big moment, for sure. And we'll all be watching to see what happens. Yeah, it really makes you think, doesn't it? Like, who would have thought this app with all dance challenges and funny videos could cause such a big global fight?
It's crazy, right? It just shows how much things have changed. Technology, especially social media, it's become like this major platform for culture, business, even politics. It's not surprising that governments are paying attention and trying to figure out what to do.
So TikTok is just the beginning then, right? It's like a symbol of this bigger battle between the U.S. and China to be the top dog in tech.
Exactly. And what happens in this case could affect other Chinese tech companies working in the U.S. too. Think about companies like Tencent with WeChat or Alibaba, the giant online store. They're all watching this very closely.
Because if the U.S. makes an example out of TikTok, it could make them go after other Chinese companies too, right?
It could. And that could scare off investors, slow down innovation, even stop information from flowing freely between countries. It's a tough balancing act trying to protect national security without hurting global cooperation and the open exchange of ideas.
It's a lot to think about, and I think it shows that we're at a turning point. The rules are changing right in front of us, and this TikTok case is at the center of it all.
It is. And it makes us ask some hard questions. How do we balance what's good for our country with being connected to the rest of the world? How do we protect our data without shutting down policies that could hurt new ideas and economic growth? These aren't easy questions to answer.
And it seems like no one can agree. Not even the experts. Some say the threat from TikTok is real and urgent, while others say it's been blown out of proportion for political reasons.
That's the thing with these complicated issues, right? There's rarely a clear right or wrong answer. It takes careful thinking, weighing the risks and benefits, and understanding the bigger picture.
So while we wait for the Supreme Court's decision, it feels like we're at a crossroads. This case is going to have a lasting impact, not just on TikTok, but on the future of the internet and the whole global tech scene.
Absolutely. It reminds us that the digital world and the physical world are connected. It's all tied up with geopolitics, economic interests, social trends. And as technology keeps changing, we're going to keep facing these tough questions, trying to find a way forward that balances security, innovation, and freedom.
Well said. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the biggest question we're left with is this. Is banning TikTok the right move to protect national security, or is it going too far and could end up hurting innovation and free speech? We've looked at the arguments, the potential consequences, the global context, but in the end, it's a decision we all have to think about. What do you think? Let us know in the comments and be sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the stories that are shaping our world.